So let's dive right into to our first session. And what we want to talk about first is we want to talk about the eligibility of baptism. Who is it that's eligible for baptism? And so we want to start with going back to the beginning. And so in Romans 3:23, it says this. It says, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." Now that verse is pretty inclusive. It says all of us have sinned. You've sinned. I've sinned. We all sin. We all break God's standard. And because of that, we fall short of the glory of God. God is perfect. God is holy. And he cannot allow sin to go unpunished. And so therefore, all of us have sinned, and we all fall short of the glory of God. And so that's a pretty inclusive statement. The verse later on in Romans, it goes on to say this. Look at Romans 6:23. It says, "For the wages of sin is death." So the sin that all of us have committed, the wages or the payment of that sin, what's deserved. So when you work and you receive a paycheck for what is deserved, the amount of work that you put in, it says the wages or the payment of sin is death. That's what we deserve. Because of the sin, because we fall short of God's standard of perfection, God's standard of holiness, we fall short of that, and the wages of our sin is death. Our sin cannot go unpunished. God is perfect. God cannot allow sin to go unpunished, and so the payment of our sin is death. Well, let's go back to Romans 5:8. It actually says this. It says this, that while we were sinners, so God looked down, he saw, man, they're a jacked up people. The world is messed up. That while we were sinners, God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for us. Remember that verse that we looked at in Romans 6:23, for the wages or the payment of our sin is death. There had to be a death. Well, God sent Jesus to come down and to die for us. God sent Jesus to take on that death that we deserve, to die for us. That's amazing. Isn't it incredible? Look at John 3:16. It says this, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him might not perish, might not die, but have eternal life." You see, God loved you and he loved me so much that he gave his only son, that he sent his son. He looked down, he said, yeah, they're messed up, they're sinners, they have a problem. He sent his only son to die in our place, that whoever believes in him might not perish, but have eternal life. Let me show it to you this way. Let me illustrate it this way. Okay, I want you to imagine that there's this massive divide, this massive gap here. And on either side of this divide, we have man and we have God. And man and God are separated, and we're separated, and there's this great divide. And in this massive divide that's here is where you find death and separation. And so it doesn't matter. You see, so many times we try to do all these good things. We try giving money to the poor. We try going to church every time the doors are open. Try doing all these different things to try to earn our way to God. But when we run and we jump, we're going to come up short every single time. Like it says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. You see, and that's what separates us from God. It's death. It's separation. That's what's separating man from God. And so God stepped in his amazing love, his amazing grace. He stepped in and he sent his son Jesus. And Jesus came to earth and he died on the cross. He died on the cross to bridge that gap. So you see, we don't have to try to do good things. We don't have to try to earn our way to God. You see, we have to get to the point where we say, God, I can't do it on my own. I have no hope on my own. So we need to trust in Jesus. To trust that Jesus is the one who came. He died in our place, but he didn't stay dead. He rose from the grave 3 days later, proving that he had power over sin, proving that he had power over death, and proving that he was God. You see, Jesus Christ is the only way that we can have access to God. Jesus Christ is the only way that we can be reconciled back to God. And so who is eligible? Well, who's eligible for baptism is anybody that has put their faith and their trust in Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone to save them from their sins. It's not any amount of good deeds that we do. It's not anything that we can do on our own, but it's us saying, no, I'm believing that Jesus died in my place and that Jesus is the only one that can save me from my sins. That's who's eligible for baptism. next we're going to look at the readiness of baptism. How do I know if I'm ready?